Okay, so moving on to masking. What is masking and why is it important? The idea behind masking, we know that sound waves cause vibration in the head. At some point, at some intensity, sound becomes intense enough that sound can actually travel through the head, causing vibration of the bones of the head. So if you have a loud voice on one side, a loud sound on one side of the head, it can actually, if it's loud enough, travel over and be heard by the cochlea on the other side of the head. And this is why we need masking. The density of the head attenuates sound energy, and it keeps sound from crossing over from the ear you're trying to test to the non-test ear. But it only attenuates so much. This is called intraoral attenuation. It's measured in dB, and the degree of intraoral attenuation varies. A, by person. So people have different size heads, they have different bone density, so everybody has a slightly different intraoral attenuation value. Additionally, intraoral attenuation varies by transducer. So for bone conduction, there is no intraoral attenuation because the bones of your skull are fused together. And so in theory, that which vibrates the mastoid on one side of the head vibrates the entire head, and by default, the mastoid on the other side of the head as well. And different studies are actually going to show slightly different attenuation values for the other two transducers. Conservatively, for inserts you can use an intraoral attenuation value of 60 dB, and for headphones you can use an intraoral attenuation value of 45 dB. Now, these are not written in stone, and you may have clinical placements where different intraoral attenuation values are being used, and that's fine. These are the ones we're going to use for the purposes of this course. Additionally, these are conservative. So for many people, inserts may actually have 70 dB of intraoral attenuation before they cross over. Again, it depends on things like head size, bone density, etc. Masking is the use of noise. It's typically contralateral noise. So typically, you're going to be using noise of some kind in the non-test ear to be sure that the response you get is actually coming from the ear that you're trying to test. So you want to be sure when the patient says, "Oh, I heard that," or they repeat the word correctly, that that is based solely on the performance of the ear that you're trying to test. So masking goes into the other ear, not the ear that you're trying to get a threshold for. And masking is used when sound in the test ear is loud enough to cross over. When sound in the test ear exceeds intraoral attenuation and therefore could be picked up by the non-test ear. Then masking is needed. As a prerequisite, it requires that you know the better ear thresholds first. And this is why when we do testing, if you ask the patient, do they hear better out of one ear, you always want to test the better ear first. So let me give you an example. Let's say we did all the testing for the left ear here, and we know that threshold in the left ear at this frequency is 5 dBHL. We're now testing the right ear to try and find the threshold for the right ear. And we're using headphones, so the intraoral attenuation is going to be about 40 dB. At 40 dB, it's going to cross over to the other ear and be present in the other ear at an intensity of 0 dB. And that's fine because it's below the person's threshold. So not a concern. However, now remember, you're doing pure tone testing, so you're asking the person to tell you when they heard the sound. At 50 dB, it's going to cross over at 10, and the person's going to hear it, and they're going to say, "I heard it." But you don't know which ear they heard it in. They don't know if they heard it in the right ear or the left ear. And people are actually not real reliable reporters about that, especially when the sound is very soft. So now you're going to put masking noise in the non-test ear to take it out of the picture and eliminate the possibility of interference. So now you can put the 50 dB tone again in the right ear, present it, no response. Patient doesn't hear anything. So next you're going to go up to 60 dB and the patient says, I heard it. And you know, because you're using the appropriate amount of masking noise on the left side, that 60 dB response is signaling a true threshold for the right ear. And that's just sort of a brief example of what masking is and why we use it.